What would people do? What would people in Oklahoma do if they got 20 inches of snow? Seriously. This is getting more interesting every single day. Welcome back, y'all. Ryan Hall here with the weather forecast. I still have power. Honestly, I was expecting not to have power today. After receiving over a half an inch of rain last night, none of it froze here where I live. So it looks like the upload schedule is not going to be interrupted. However, the ice storm is wreaking havoc across Kentucky, Arkansas, and Texas. We're going to start off this video by taking a look at that. And then we're going to take a look at our next big storm, which is looking more and more like a very significant and memorable weather event each day. So without further ado, let's start talking about the weather. Okay, we're going to start off down here in Texas. Look at this. We've got heavy snow and ice down here south of Dallas near Austin, Texas. This is freezing rain from Rochelle all the way over to Elkhart, moving into Jacksonville. This is all south of Dallas, and this is actually causing some problems down here. And then if we move east into southern Louisiana, we've got some thunderstorms. In fact, there was a tornado warning down here just a few minutes ago. These storms are going to continue moving off to the north and east. We've also got heavy freezing rain south and east of Memphis in northwestern Mississippi, and it goes all the way into Nashville. Now, the rain showers here are kind of isolated. It's not like a continuous rain shower that's continuously freezing, so the ice problems shouldn't be as significant in Nashville as they were to the north and west. And then down here in southeastern Kentucky, the ice is getting ready to ramp back up as another area of precipitation is blowing up over here. This will drop maybe 1/10 of an inch of ice as it moves across southeastern Kentucky. And then, of course, we're dealing with snow south of Washington, D.C. Last night, they were dealing with snow north of Washington, D.C., but hardly any snow at all in Washington, D.C. itself. I'm sorry, guys. But once again, the headline of this storm is the ice. Let's take a look at some pictures of that ice. Here's Richmond, Kentucky. Once again, not very far away from me, but they've got quite a bit of ice accumulation on elevated surfaces. Also, this is Nicholasville, Kentucky. Tree branches are down, completely blocking the roads. In Memphis, Tennessee, check this out. And here in Arkansas, they've got thunder sleet. Check it out. Dang. Also, we've got snow reports from last night. Just to the north of Washington, D.C., up here near Baltimore, we're talking about 4 to 5 inches. Also, down here in southeastern Pennsylvania, 2 or 3 inches fell. And then up here in the mountains of West Virginia, we're talking about 7, 8, 9 inches of snow near Bayard, West Virginia, 6 inches in Burlington, West Virginia. And once again, we're expecting more today down here. We can take a look at that on the weather models. All right, this is the HER model, boys. The high resolution rapid refresh model. Let's rapidly refresh this high resolution model. Let's go. Here we are around current time. Okay, we're still dealing with some sleet and freezing rain down here in southern Texas, also here in my neck of the woods in eastern Kentucky down through western Tennessee, northwestern Mississippi. This little secondary injection of moisture here is going to run up into the cold air in northern Virginia and southern Maryland, and you guys are going to see some more snow out of this. Let's check it out. Okay, I'm putting this into motion. Watch how as this moisture comes in to the cold air, the snow really blows up here in northern Virginia and southern West Virginia. Here we are around 5, 6 o'clock. It starts getting heavier, and at the same time this snow starts getting heavier today, the ice and freezing rain down here in southern Texas will dissipate, as well as in southeastern Kentucky, as all this moisture moves off to the east. Freezing rain estimates for the rest of the day are very minimal, okay? So for southeastern Kentucky, maybe can expect up to 1/4 inch of ice, and then some people down here in south central Texas can see maybe up to 1/2 inch of ice. Snow totals over here in the mid-Atlantic may be pretty impressive from this. We're talking about 4, 5, maybe 6 inches all across central Virginia. Looks like Hot Springs can maybe see 6 or 7 inches. Charlottesville 2 to 4 inches. Even Richmond could possibly see 5 or 6 inches of snow, and Roanoke could see 2 to 4 inches. So a lot of central and northern Virginia here are just going to get a prolonged period of moderate to heavy snowfall tonight, and temperatures should be low enough for it to pile up. I wouldn't be surprised if some people got a little bit more than 5 inches here. So it is looking good for you Virginians, at least until the next system comes through. Let's check out the NAM. Okay, here's the 12-kilometer NAM. I'm going to put this into motion. Here's that snow tonight, okay? On the southern edge of the snow, we may have a problem with sleet and freezing rain, especially down here on the Virginia and North Carolina border. It's not going to be too severe tonight, but there very well may be places that pick up 1/4 inch of ice. But on the tail end of this, watch, there's more Gulf moisture that's coming up here. We've got this stationary boundary, and what's going to happen as we go into the 12th, 13th, and 14th is another little plume of moisture is going to come up. Watch here. Here we are at 7 a.m. on Saturday the 13th. A more significant icing problem for central Virginia all the way down to Newport News, and then that will move into Maryland as well. The Delmarva Peninsula, all of Delaware could be dealing with ice, all the way into South Jersey, Central Jersey, North Jersey, Long Island. Looky here, 7 a.m. on Sunday, on Valentine's Day, we're dealing with some freezing rain on Long Island. Okay, this is where it starts to get interesting, okay? Here's the system we were just talking about just now on the NAM. That's moving to the north and east, and that will also bring some flurries and some moderate snow showers to the Ohio Valley, all the way up into upstate New York and up here around the Adirondacks, the Green Mountains, the White Mountains. Nothing too significant there, though. The main thing with this little system is going to be the icing that could occur in Virginia and North Carolina there. Now our eyes shift over here to the west, right? We've got a low pressure system in Colorado. We've got a big area of snow all the way through the Rocky Mountains, the Four Corners, all the way up into Idaho, and then now as far east as Kansas and Oklahoma. Additionally, here's our lobe of the polar vortex, a 1046 high pressure system moving south. It's pushing this cold air south, okay? Additionally, like I said earlier, we've got all this moisture just pluming up from the Gulf, and we have a storm system coming off from the Pacific. So this is like the perfect melting pot, the perfect breeding ground for a very significant snowstorm for Texas and Oklahoma. And then what happens with it from there will decide who else it's a significant snowstorm for. But check this out. We've got heavy snow now moving into the northern panhandle of Texas and the panhandle of Oklahoma. The snow reaches as far south as into Mexico. Look here, all of New Mexico's getting heavy snow, and look at this tightly packed cold air going down into Texas. This is historic cold, guys. Some people who are watching this video, if you live in northern Texas, if you live in Oklahoma, Kansas, in this region right here, this will be the coldest air you have ever experienced in your entire life. This is no joke. This is real polar Arctic air diving down into Texas, and with wind chills, we could be talking about some very serious cold, some dangerous cold. So let's keep putting this into motion, and remember, the heaviest snow is falling back here where the coldest temperatures are going to be. Every snowflake is going to stick, so even though it may not be snowing so hard it's unbelievable, snowfall rates are going to be high. We're talking about 15-to-1 to maybe even 20-to-1 snowfall ratios. Okay, let's move this forward a little bit more. That cold air is still coming down. Our storm is compacting over here. We're meeting up with some Gulf moisture here. It never really surfaces until we get a little bit further into the future. Now we're seeing heavy snow into Missouri, eastern Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, maybe even northern Louisiana, and then that stretches out here into the Ohio Valley too, northern West Virginia, all the way out to Maryland and then Pennsylvania here. And then as we push this a little bit further, look, we've got another maybe significant ice storm on our hands for the Tennessee Valley, from Mississippi all the way up into Cincinnati, Ohio, and then that brings the heavy snow all the way up into Illinois, Indiana, northwestern Ohio, and the heavy ice is occurring from Columbus all the way down to Middlesboro, Kentucky. Look at this, and we've also got heavy ice over here in Virginia again. So there may be a couple areas over here that just see round after round of heavy ice storms as we go into the future, which is not good at all. Maryland seeing heavy ice. It looks like it's snowing here in northern Pennsylvania and upstate New York. Does the ice travel north? It tries to, but we do have heavy snow in northern Pennsylvania at this hour. This is Tuesday, February 16th at 10 a.m. Look at the cold air behind it. It's sharp. It's still very cold up here near Chicago. Every snowflake is going to stick. And then as we move that forward, there's a transfer of energy, and that low now over the Atlantic Ocean feeding off those warm Atlantic waters. So this is probably going to be a rainstorm for the coastal regions up here, but we've got a little bit of ice for Connecticut and Rhode Island, and some heavy snow now moving into the very northeastern regions of the United States. Okay, so here's the snowfall totals from that run with the 10-to-1 ratio, okay? This is a worst case scenario. This is unlikely that this is all the snow that's going to fall, but we're still looking at over 6 to 10 inches of snow for much of Oklahoma, northern Texas, southeastern Kansas, southwestern Missouri, northwestern Arkansas. Like, this is, even if we weren't dealing with the extreme cold that we're talking about, we are still talking about some very intense snow totals here. And we're talking about 2 to 4, 3 to 6 inches all the way down here into central Texas. And this does take a path all the way up into the northeast. Look at this. These are some very high totals in Pennsylvania. We're looking at over a foot. New York, Massachusetts, little stripe here in northern Virginia too that has some intense totals. But once again, I think we should be looking at the Kuchera totals. This may be more realistic, especially on the backside of that low pressure system, okay? Like from a line like right here this way, I think that these totals are a little bit more realistic. Now closer to the coast over here, it may be a little bit overdone, but over here in Texas, look at this. We're talking about a potential 9 or 10 inches over here in Dallas, Fort Worth. We're talking about Abilene, Texas getting a foot of snow, Amarillo getting close to 2 feet of snow. Now up here near Woodward, Oklahoma, in the panhandle of Oklahoma here, we're talking about 30 inches of snow all the way up into southern Kansas near Wichita getting 2 feet of snow, okay? And this moves up up all the way into Missouri, Illinois, southern Iowa, eastern Iowa, Wisconsin, and a lot of Nebraska is going to get a lot of snow from this too, guys. And look at the snow over here in the mountains of Colorado and New Mexico. We're talking about 30, 40 inches of snow possible. Absolutely insane. And then as we look a little bit further east, northwestern Ohio, all of Indiana is going to be around a foot of snow. And then once again, as we head up here, north of this line, these totals could be realistic, but I do think the closer you get to the coast, the model's really underdoing how much warm air is out here in the Atlantic. So, you know, if you live in central Massachusetts, for example, I wouldn't look forward to seeing a foot of snow from this storm just yet. We're farther out for this part of the storm than we are for this part of the storm. This part over here, lock it in, son. We're in Snowtown, baby. This part over here, we still got to wait a little bit before we're going to lock it in. However, there's a very good chance that if this verifies, this will verify as well. All right, let's check out our storm on the GFS. This is the 12Z GFS. It just rolled out. Here comes our system down from the Pacific Northwest. It's snowing heavily in New Mexico again, and that's moving into Texas and Oklahoma, and this goes even further south. Look, we've got freezing rain as far south as Houston, Texas. Cold air does come down a little bit deeper here with the GFS. This is even colder, which means even higher snowfall rates. And then as we push this forward, the snow shield doesn't come back as far here. It's actually, everything's a little bit more compacted. This run of the GFS actually has the storm being quite a bit weaker than what we've seen in the past runs and also on the Euro. But we're still seeing a very significant ice and sleet storm from Louisiana through Mississippi, Alabama, central Tennessee, all the way up into eastern Kentucky and West Virginia. But look at that backside snow along the Ohio River there up into Ohio and Indiana. That ice is just intense in eastern Kentucky right here around 1 a.m. on Tuesday, February 16th. Moving into Pennsylvania now, the ice moves into northern Virginia, southern Maryland, but the heavy snow is right there in central Pennsylvania, State College, Williamsport. You're having heavy snow at 7 a.m. on Tuesday, February 16th, possibly bringing snow to Boston this time, significant amounts according to the GFS. And then once again, that's out of here by February 17th, Wednesday. And the GFS sees it too. It sees another storm forming over here around the 165-hour mark on February 18th. It's too far out to really analyze this one too much, but that's what it looks like. This one right here actually looks like it could be a very significant severe weather day. Probably not like a high risk day or anything, but certainly significant for February. Here in the Dixie Alley from Alabama over to Georgia to eastern Tennessee could be a very interesting day for sure, with some backside snow showers that could cause some big time accumulations for Kentucky and Ohio and Indiana. And then that moves completely out, and the rest of the pattern is just remaining active with clipper after clipper with more storm systems. There's a parade of storm systems coming, guys. All right, that's what the first one looks like on the 10-to-1 ratio. It's important to remember that. This is likely underdone for this area over here. We're still showing very significant and memorable snowfalls for Oklahoma, okay, and northern Texas. You guys got to remember, Oklahoma City, the most snow they've ever seen in one day was 10 inches, okay? And then, of course, that does travel up north and east into Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, upstate New York. Now here comes our second storm. And that one actually looks like it could drop some more significant totals from Arkansas through West Tennessee up through Kentucky, Ohio, this area right here. And also for the Northeast, look at this. It really paints a very bright picture there. And then as we go all the way through here, this is what the end of the run on the GFS looks like for 10-to-1 ratios. Now look at this Kuchera. What would people do? What would people in Oklahoma do if they got 20 inches of snow? Seriously. This is getting more interesting every single day. But as you can see, I'm just showing this because, you know, it's fun to look at. We don't need to pay too much attention to exact totals, but for literally days now, it's been very consistent that we're going to have a significant snowstorm somewhere in this area. Now, are you going to get 2 feet of snow in Oklahoma? I don't know. Probably not. But even if you only get, 6 to 8 inches, that's still very significant. Of course, over here near Louisville, we've got 26 inches of snow. All of Ohio is covered in nearly 2 feet of snow. Much of Pennsylvania and New York's covered up here. I mean, this is looking good. Alrighty, guys, that's all the weather talk I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you slap a like on this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn those notifications on. 75% of you guys are not subscribed. What's going on, man? Do you search my name every time you want to watch a video? You don't have to do that. You can just subscribe, and you can get a notification every time I post. Once again, it looks like I'm going to hold on to power even through tomorrow, so I will see you tomorrow, guys. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.